So, good morning. My name is Ottilie Koblehus, and I have been responsible for organizing and facilitating this morning's session on SAP SuccessFactors Employee Central Payroll. Just to do some housekeeping, this session will be recorded, but is solely for the purpose of sharing to participants who could not attend, and also to those of you who are interested. Today, we will start with a short overview of who is Gaudi Group. This will be presented by my colleague, Andy Hodges. Then our subject matter expert, Michelle Bates, will present the topic of this session as well as a demo. We will also have a Q&A session at the end where we will be able to answer if you have any questions. Also, just make sure to leave them in the chat. And then I will hand it over to you, Mr. Andy Hodges.
Thank you. Would you like to go to the next slide for me, if you
Yes.
don't mind? Thank you. Morning, everybody. And yes, in fact, I'm seconding for a colleague today, John Clifford, who's our head of marketing in Europe. And I'm a poor substitute, but I'll give it a go. Obviously, in terms of the introduction to Gaudi Group, I'll get to that in a second. Firstly, I wanted to introduce you to my two colleagues here. The first colleague is Michelle Bates. Michelle's been in UK payroll for 5 years, and she's also a UK payroll process expert. And that's really important because knowing how to do SAP payroll is one thing, but understanding UK payroll process is something completely different altogether. You've got to know both to do it well. So she's got a BTEC in payroll and certifications for S/4HANA payroll and EC payroll. And from our perspective in Gaudi, she looks after our UK payroll customers. Michelle's going to be doing most of the heavy lifting today, in fact, all of it, to be fair. However, she's also joined by our UK payroll lead, Alex Healy. Alex has been in the payroll world for 20 years. He's worked in payroll in the UK, Europe, Middle East, and the US. He's also a payroll process expert in those areas. And actually, Alex started as an end user. He started actually as a payroll end user. So it gave him a really good insight into how it all works from a customer perspective, not just a consultant perspective, but he's also got that now. He's got experience in manufacturing, retail, government. So between the two of them today, I think we're really well covered, not just to talk about ECP in UK payroll terms, but across a lot of the regions or the units that we cover. For my part, my name's Andy Hodges. Like a lot of firms, Gaudi, we're a boutique organization, I think is the right phrase. I'll introduce you to us for those of you who don't know us. But so I have a dual function. Firstly, I run the UK and Ireland businesses as the managing director. And the other side of my role is as chief sales and marketing officer, a role I took up in 2015, and I set up all the structures for sales and marketing in 2015 and run that today. I said I'm seconding for John. I've been in the SAP world for about 20 years, and yeah, hence the dark circles under my eyes. That counts for that. So Ottilie, if we can go on to the next slide, please. I'll do a very brief overview. Ottilie has given me a very, very tight brief in terms of timing, so I'm going to try to keep it as brief as I possibly can to then allow us to focus on the most important thing. So today, Michelle's going to really focus on the features, functions, and some of the benefits of SAP EC Payroll. And it's actually built on the SAP Payroll engine, which has been around for a long time now, which is localized in different countries, as we know. But these days, it's got a user-friendly front end called the Payroll Control Center, which actually provides a really good user interface for that. It's also got the award-winning back end to that, the administrative side of things, which is the same SAP payroll engine that's been used by many, many companies over many, many years to great effect. So who are we? Who are this company called Gaudi? Well, first of all, I always phrase this by saying we obviously can't spell our name correctly because it's Gavdi, not Gaudi, but it's one of those quirky things that you get from a family-owned business that was established in Denmark in 1999 by our co-founders, Mr. Søren Koppelhus and also Mr. Lars Knudsen, who still own and manage the company today. So we are very, very, it's an employee-owned, family-run business. And we started in SAP HR and payroll So we started those years ago in SAP HR and Payroll. But of course, as we know, in 2012, SAP acquired SuccessFactors. In fact, it was a reverse takeover because SuccessFactors actually took over the SAP HR world. So I was an SAP consultant. So, I had to transition with Gaudi and lots of other people into becoming a SuccessFactors organization. And we did that in 2013. And in fact, the UK was at the forefront of that. The UK and Ireland business was at the forefront of that because we did our first Gaudi implementations of SuccessFactors in 2013, and we started to gain momentum. And we transitioned all of our HR consultants, because we had lots of them, folk like myself, but better, and architects, into the SuccessFactors world. But we still retained our core payroll expertise. So we still have, I think, one of the largest payroll teams in Europe. And that survives today. And we transitioned from the on-premise payroll, which customers still use today, and we transitioned over into EC payroll. Over 600 customers later, if you look at selected customers, they're payroll customers. Some of them are EC payroll customers. So the likes of Pentland Brands. Pentland, if you don't know them, is a fantastic, very successful British retail story. They're in Canterbury and Berghaus and Speedo. Great success story. You wouldn't probably know them, but they're a great success story, where we implemented EC payroll there in 2018. Decathlon, I'll talk about them in more detail in a minute. And most of these people are not just payroll customers of ours, EC payroll customers of ours. They're actually SuccessFactors customers too. There's a very, very good synergy between SuccessFactors and EC payroll that I think it's really important to point out, that they go hand in hand with each other. They really do. In terms of what we do as a business, the background is pretty much anything to do with HR payroll, and we've expanded now into other solutions like Concur and ServiceNow. ServiceNow is one of those lines that we adopted about 5 years ago and made a great success of that. So it really complements the kind of approach we have to total workforce management. That's what we're really about: total workforce management, time and attendance, with external third parties, all the way through to ServiceNow and IT support and HR support and things like that. We also have a really strong product band called PXM Soft, run by a dear colleague of mine, Jacob Sorensen. It's add-ons, things like document management and archiving and things like that, if you go into the open market, there's some big players out there that it costs a small fortune. With our document management solution, it's a very cost-effective way for customers to do document management and make up for some of the shortfalls that exist in SuccessFactors today. So as I approach the end of my time, because I'm looking at the timing, Italy, if you'd like to go to the next slide, please. I'm very quickly going to talk about this particular story, because if you go to our website, you will see the story of Decathlon. It was a greenfield. When we first got approached by Decathlon to look at it. It's very UK specific, by the way. It's a great French retail success story, but this is the UK part of the business. It was a greenfield, and we went in and we looked at the holistic approach to it. It was core HR, it was payroll, recruitment, onboarding, compensation, performance, even time and attendance with a third party. And it's a great story. And if you go to the website, and Natalia has put the information up there, do listen to this guy. He led the project. He's not just a payroll manager. He led that project. He talks about the great successes, but some of the challenges, and there were challenges. And I worked really closely with Nick Francis at Decathlon in terms of the deployment of this. But his EC payroll story is really, really good. You'll find him on LinkedIn as well, and you can reach out to him. He's a really, really personable, sociable sort of person. And I'm sure he'd be quite happy to share that with you as well. So please, please, please go to the website, have a look at it, listen to Nick, and you'll find loads of other videos there as well. Thank you, Attilia. So I am now going to be quiet. I've used up my slot. I'm going to hand you over to Michelle. Michelle, over to you. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks again for joining. I'm just going to share my screen so I can go through the slides from my side. Just bear with me a second. Okay, so we're going to kick off today with a brief background of SAP for anyone who hasn't seen it before. This will bring us nicely into the corporation of ECP and then the demo. So SAP has two payroll solutions. One which is called SAP on-premise, where a customer has its own version of software through a license and they host it on their company-owned hardware and network devices. This can be used as a standalone HRS system or alongside Employee Central, using middleware like Boomi, for instance, for integration. It's a very robust and detailed system. However, you need to be able to navigate through various screens called transactions and enter specific data formats to process payroll, with an additional need to maintain a payroll checklist document to ensure all steps of end-to-end payroll are captured. SAP's second but newest solution is Employee Central Payroll ECP, which is cloud-based and uses point-to-point integration, so there's no need for middleware. It takes SF connectivity, ECC and on-prem functionality and combines them with a user-friendly interface called the Payroll Control Center, PCC. This streamlines and accelerates the payroll process, removing the need to remember different screen names and reduces the risk of errors due to its validation process. ECP is SAP's main focus, with enhancements being developed for the future. However, it's still the same SAP payroll in the background with over 30 years of proven success. The benefit of ECP is that you don't have to manually maintain tax and NI thresholds or statutory rates, as they are updated by SAP remotely by the 1st of April via HR support packs. New features and functionality, as well as legal changes, are released every 6 months, usually in the 2nd or 4th quarter. So what's included in the solution? So we have the basic payroll functions of calculating gross and net pay, the ability to hold complicated personnel calculations of wage types or pay elements, retroactive calculations, average payments, for example, holiday pay statements, which can also be shown on the mobile app, periodic and annual forms, including P60s, P45s and P11Ds, RTI reporting to and from HMRC, including FPS, EPS and incoming tax code changes, general ledger creations and posting to finance, reporting tools which can be both run in EC and the ECP and the Payroll Control Center. The Employee Central system is a prerequisite for implementing and using the payroll system. So this is a fact to consider if you are looking purely for a payroll system without changing your existing core HR. We will now move on to the demo of the systems, firstly looking at the EC, the engine that drives the payroll. So let me just come out of this for a second and go to my next part. Okay, not in, surprisingly. 2 seconds. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing my camera so you can't see me looking at my screens very closely. So with ECP, all data is entered in ECSF, which is the system of record for all master data. The data stored is integrated to the payroll system via replication or UI mashups. Replication can be set at different intervals dependent on the business requirements, from as little as every 30 seconds to every hour. So it's imperative that this information is accurate. This drives the data for payroll. We're just going to go into a record so you can see how the different areas of what we can look at. Let me get rid of this, sorry. So I won't go into too much detail with regards to all the fields in EC, but we'll touch on the pay relevant information. So you can navigate to different areas of EC by using the sub-tabs here, which are called portlets. So firstly, we're going to look at the compensation information portlet. This is where the grouping is held for the relevant payrolls. The pay group, which is held here, it determines how the employees are grouped together and processed. This can be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or however the payroll is managed. Slide down slightly, and this is where also your basic salary and your recurring payments are also held. This at the moment is showing a monthly figure, but this can be held annually, then transferred to payroll as a monthly or weekly amount via integration. Recurring payments, for example, car allowances, secondment allowances, shift allowances, anything that is paid frequently. And this portlet integrates the data to ECP via replication. So next is the payroll portlet. Here you will find quick links, which are called mashups. They take you directly into the back-end system of ECP, where you're able to add the data for payroll. For example, say you need to add or edit an NI category for an employee. You click on the link and it takes you into the back-end system. You can edit what's already there, or you can add new, enter the relevant information, the valid from and to, the category that is changed to, save. I'll cancel because I don't want to make any changes. And then you can just come back to the employee's record by back arrowing on there. So everything that can be done for payroll can be done on the front end now instead of the back end, which is it's all in one place. It's a one-stop shop. All the ones you can see, there's a couple that are starred here. These ones you can star whatever ones you like, but these ones are actually mandatory for payroll processing. So they won't replicate into the system unless they have been completely filled in. Right, to maintain segregation of duties, only HR can edit the HR data, and payroll will only have access to payroll portlet. This is managed with the use of roles in EC. So now we're going to be moving on to the PCC, or Payroll Control Center, where SAP has streamlined the payroll processing. At the top of the screen, if you go to the drop-down bar, you can navigate to payroll, and it will take you to the PCC interface. As a quick overview of the PCC, SAP have created this to save time processing payroll by using one-click processes. They have moved the post-payroll check-in task, for example, net and gross variances, to the pre-payroll process, giving more time to identify and fix issues. On screen now, we have several headers running along the top. The first 4 are used for the processing of payroll, and the last are used for either configuration or off-cycle activities. To understand the principles behind the PCC, I firstly need to show you the setup. This information will be configured prior to go live with your business requirements. So I've tried to go through this in a logical order. So we'll start with the manage policies, which is here. So policies are a group of validations or checks you can configure against your test and live payroll results. They are set with specific criteria or thresholds in the background, and if an employee exceeds those criteria, an alert will flag when processing the payroll. So we want to focus on GB, so we'll just search in there. And as you can see, we have 4 categories. So you've got default, gross, net, and missing data. These are created to capture all data variances, which you would normally find on an exceptions report at the end of the month. They are fully customizable to your business needs, and you can have as many or few as you like. So if we drill down, for example, into the gross policies, you can see some of the checks the system will perform dependent on your setup. Thresholds like the gross pay exceeding 3,500 can be edited to suit your business profile, so you can have that as high or as low as you like. But you've also got other things on there like overtime is being high for certain, look up certain wage types. And then we can have a look at a few other ones as well. So if we look at missing data policies, you can see you've got missing cost centers in there, missing user IDs, and then some of the net pay ones. You've got a net pay of over a certain amount. Again, that can be configured to whatever you need it to be. And then net pay less than the threshold. So they've got a low net or they've got a claim. So all this will flag up as you're processing the payroll. So this can be set up at the beginning of, like I said, before go live. But if anything needs changing at any stage, either upon the initial setup, the payroll manager can do this. There's no need to refer to technical support team. This can be updated in-house. So that's always a bonus as well. So SAP Basic Setup comes with 40 pre-configured validation rules, which can all be adapted. So next we'll move on to manage teams. This is where you can set up multiple teams to handle different payrolls or policies. So we're going to look at the Payroll UK team. And if you click through to this screen, this is where you can manage what policies will be monitored by the team. We have all policies under one team, but you could have 2 teams set up, one to look at gross and net variances and another to look at default and missing data, but however you want to manage it. So there are 2 roles within the PCC. There's team leads and there's team members. So team members or admins are anyone you want to have access to check and fix alerts, and they can also assign alerts to themselves. Team leads are the managers. The manager role can do the same as the admins, but also run production and post-payroll processes, create and edit teams, create policies or amend existing policies, and create and edit processes. Apologies for all the P's. I do like to use processes and policies quite a lot. It's very simple to use. To amend anything or to change a team, you can just go back. There's an edit button here at the bottom. You choose which team you want to edit, and then go on to whichever criteria you want to look at. And then basically there's a plus or a delete button on each one. So if somebody's left your team, you can just take them out or add anybody on. And once you've done that, you check the team setup. Setup is correct, so we go back and then we activate. And it shows it's active, and then come out of the edit process. So that's it. It's pretty simple. So that concludes the setup of the PCC. What I will show you now is the processing of the payroll. Right. Firstly, we have manage processes. This is where you add your upcoming payroll periods. So again, let's focus on GB. And as you can see, there are 3 processes to the PCC. So pre-payroll, production payroll, and post-payroll, which we'll go through in more information in a second. So if we click into pre-production for pre-payroll, for example, you can see what's included within this process. For instance, what payroll is included, what policies are assigned to that payroll, and what team members are. And at the bottom, we've got your payroll periods. So add another period on. Again, this is very simple. Just go to edit, scroll down to the bottom, add another payroll. It'll come up the next most recent one. Press OK. I'm going to add this on now. Validate just to make sure that all the information is correct, and save. And that's it. So once you have added a new period, you can actually do this in 2 different ways. So you can add them on one at a time. So I prefer to do this because it just looks neater when you go to the My Processes, or you can add a whole year's worth on if you like. But I'll show you what the next stage is, and you can make your mind up of what you'd like to do. You do need to add a process, a period for each process. So do each one separately. So if we now go to My Processes, so here we have 4 sections just along here. We have active, upcoming off cycle, and completed. So after you've created a period, they will show up under upcoming. So the one that we've just created is now here, December. And we've still got November in here as well for the production and the post. But obviously I've started the pre-payroll process for November to save time on the demo this morning. So if we now click into here, you'll see that there's 3 different steps to run through. So you've got create, test payroll data, initiate policies, and monitoring. So if we go to test payroll data for now, if there is an error when you run this, I've already run it, so there was an error because I made sure there was. You can click on see details. It would say that would come up as red and there's an error. It shows you that there's one error within the payroll. If you click further in, you can get more information. So you've got create tax data for an employee, and then it actually shows you who that's for as well. So you can either decide to correct that now, or you can correct it in the monitoring process, because as this is test payroll, you can redo this as many times as you like. So you can also go back, and if you go to program details, which is here, this actually shows you the payroll log, which many people that have used SAP before might be already familiar with. So it gives you a bit more information about who's been successful, who's been run, and it's just all the same processes are in the background for this. So what we're looking at next is initiate policies. So I've also started this. This will do as it says on the tin, basically start running the policies set up for this process. This will then impact what is the outcome of the monitoring process. Again, you can go into see details and it gives you an idea of what it runs through. And it does, that one probably takes the longest to run, but again, it's very short time compared to all the other things that we're used to in SAP. And then obviously you can see here that we have 6 alerts and I want to see what they are. So I'm going to click on not assigned. So this is going to show me what policies have been triggered. At this point, if I wanted to, I could just assign all the missing data policies to one team. So you can just go to not assigned and just give it to one person within the team. Or you can click on each one and then you can click further down and assign it per person, or you can assign it per issue, basically. So if we look at the missing data policy, we've got 2 people who've got a user ID. So this normally means that they won't have access to their payslip via EC if this is missing. So I'm going to assign one of these to myself. And you can carry on entering through to see any other details, because there's additional details on the end of here also. So once you've assigned it, this will then move on to your alerts, my alerts. So let's take a look at that. So this is the alert that I've just assigned to myself. So we're going to click on that and it's going to give you more information. So it gives you an idea of how the alert can be solved. This again is fully customizable. So this one's saying that there's a subtype 00001 missing. And it tells you what info type to put that into. And there's also a link to review the employee's PA30 record. So I'm going to click on there and we're going to fix this. So as you can probably see, a lot of people that are used to SAP, this is your typical HR screen now. So I'm going to put the employee's number in, the info type, and the subtype. And I'm going to add a record for that. I'm going to add the system name and save it. And then I'm going to go back to my alerts. And then I want to check to see if this one's now been fixed. So I'm going to tick on the employee and press validate. And it disappears because I've fixed it. So if we now go back to my processes and back in there, it now shows that there's 5 remaining to be fixed. So the admins can also use the unassigned alerts tab. So they can assign alerts themselves. They can do this by as a batch again, or drilling down and choosing them individually. To demonstrate, I'm going to assign the gross policy to myself. So let's go in and do that. Assign to me. Again, we have to go back to my alerts. And this one we're going to look through for further information because it's something about what they're being paid. So I'm going to click further in. We're going to look down here and you've got the payment information at the bottom. So this is like your results table or the results that are coming through. So you can click on the little square at the bottom, it comes up with a bigger view. And at the moment, this one's showing that the employee's on OMP, which I know is their actual full pay. So I know that although it is over the threshold, I know that that's correct. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to resolve it. And then you can add a reason if you like. And spell. There we go. And then resolve. So I'm happy with that answer. So all the notes and anything that you write into the system are fully auditable as well. So you have to go into the back end to be able to see that, but you can find out who's done it, what information they've put on it for anything that you write into any of the notes. And again, that one's disappeared because that one's been fixed. Back to my processes. And now it's gone down to 4. So pre-payroll, so this can be rerun as many times as you like to identify new issues and resolve alerts before the need of locking down payroll for finalisation. So you can go back in, repeat this step, because obviously there's payroll information coming in different times of the month. So you can keep going with that until you're happy. There's the cut-off period. You know that no more information is coming in, and that's when you would move then on to the production payroll. So let's do that. So let's confirm that we're happy with those. So you can complete it, but they will show up in the next process. Upcoming processes, I'm going to go to production payroll and start that process. So here you can see we've got 6 steps to this process. So we've got start payroll, which I'm going to start while we talk about the rest, just so it's running. And we've got, so this will lock the payroll, so no data can flow from EC. This now can be activated at a much later stage in the month, as the pre-payroll process has done most of the heavy lifting with regards to check-in. Run payroll. This runs the payroll and produces your live final payroll results. Posting simulation, produces a test GL run and report. Initiate policies, the same as the last step, and the monitoring. Anything that slipped through the net can be captured here before you managed to lock the payroll, something slipped through. And again, once you get to this stage, this can again be run if you need to, until the time that you want to come to end payroll. So once you've become error-free within the posting simulation and everything else, you can then end payroll. And this step closes the payroll, putting it into exit mode, so that data can free flow again from EC for the next period. It also banks the results in the results table that SAP uses for all subsequent activities, for example, payslips, posting to finance, FPS submissions, HMRC, etc. Due to this, the payroll then cannot be rerun. So with this, it's just a case of you have to refresh. It says it's complete. This one's run, it's finished with errors. Once one's started, the next one will run automatically. If there are errors, you would need to confirm if you're happy to carry on. So we run, is still there because I haven't fixed the person that's got the no tax details. I'm going to confirm that. Posting simulation. I'll start that process. Hopefully this won't take too long, because I did want to show you a couple of bits within the posting simulation. For people that are familiar with SAP, you can still see the reports that come out if there are errors, and I have again set up an error for this.
Michelle, you're really good for time, by the way, so.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Once you have it, I'll just run through once the payroll's been exited while I refresh this. So once the so depending on your requirements, once you've ended the payroll and it's in exit, pay slips are then released to the employees. Additional rules can be written to the system to enable a waiting period, so that the pay slips are held and only released until 2 days prior to payday, or however the business wants to provide those. It's still going. Bear with me. You can actually see where it's going. If you go into here in the program details, it shows what is actually processed already. There we go. So that's now ended with errors. So we want to see detail on that. So if we go to that, it just shows that there's 2 errors and 1 other. Again, you can click through there and it'll give you more information. Program details is where you can see, obviously, the things that have come from SAP automatically. So this is where you can see your normal GL account, and this shows that this person's out £100. They haven't balanced, and this is the time where you would then go back, have a look at that, and then you can refix it. And then you can also display your posting document, which shows you where everything's going, and it gives you again other errors that you can look at down there. So all the normality of SAP is included within the PCC. So it's still just as easy to use. So that concludes the production payroll. So we'll move on to the post payroll. So I'm not going to go through this and show you how each of these works, because it's basically exactly the same as what we've just been through. But there are 5 steps for this one. So you've got You're creating the final posting documents, then you're releasing them. Then you'll post them to the financial accounting system. You can then create your pre-DME file. Again, here you will have show details where it will show you if there's any errors, exactly the same as it would have done within the backend system. And then you've got your create DME file, which will then send the payment as well. The back's file layout and formatting can be tailored to your business specifications. Any end of period or end of year reports like the FPS or EPS submissions to HMRC will be sent via a tile on the homepage of EC. So if we go back to the homepage, so as you can see, these would be your tiles. We've got a wage type of report here, but you would have one for the FPS or the EPS. P11D, that can also be on here. P60s as well. But we've also got obviously this, which is the wage type reporter. This is accessible on the tile on the EC homepage. This can provide reports for payovers and pension providers. So if I click into there, you can see how that works. So you can set up save reports here. They're called variants, which then can be easily repeated each month and then adjusted if needed. So we've set up a few here. We've got a gross to net report. I'll click on there and then run that. As it's already been saved, it's already got the information I want. And then it comes through. These can all be changed to however you want to send them. So if you need to send them to a pension provider, if it's pension details, and they need it in specific format, that can be all changed to house anybody that you want. It's accessible to XML, so you can download it to XML. And then I'll show you what that looks like. That's just there. And then the final thing is payslips. So if I go back into my backend system, I'm going to put employee 168. So payslips are accessible from EC. As mentioned before, as soon as you exit the payroll, and if you've got any business requirements in there, it will be available as soon as you need it to be. So within the payroll portlet again, you have at the bottom pay statement. Again, you can have in here your P60s as well. And then it just shows you the pay slips, and you'd have multiple pay slips here for different periods as well. But as you can see on here, you've got, this can be, like I said, done in any format you like, to however you want to create it. But it also shows what periods of what payments have been done for. So this person didn't get paid last month, so they're getting paid twice this month, and it just shows you what period, what payments for. And that will happen with any wage types that go onto the pay slip as well. So it's easy for understanding for the payroll processors to try and explain people's pay slips. I know that can be difficulty in the past where you've just had an R or something like that, and it's not very straightforward of how each payment and what month it's for. And you can also have different things on there. So you could have your total payments, your total deductions, whatever. And that concludes the presentation for ECP. This is the thing, because now it's so much easier and so much quicker. It doesn't take as long to go through. So thank you all for the time. I'll hand it back to Andy. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Michelle. Excellent. I mean, a really good, strong overview of this thing called EC Payroll. And I mean, anyone that's got experience of SAP Payroll, in the latter part of the presentation, obviously we saw classic SAP Payroll, right? So all that good stuff is still in the back end and allows you to run your process. And it doesn't matter whether you're in UK, Ireland, Denmark, Sweden, Saudi Arabia, you've still got the access to that really powerful payroll engine. So yeah, Michelle, thank you so much. That was so good. Attilia, I think, would I be right in thinking that we've had some questions flow through?
Yes,
Perfect.
we certainly do. We have a question from Jane. How do we move our custom payroll bill from on-prem to ECP? Michelle, I will hand that question over to you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So we will work with the business to analyze all of the transports that's ever been created in the payroll system. And we identify all the elements previously configured. We can then bundle the configured objects into several new transports that SAP then help us import into your new ECP environment. There may be a couple of additional configuration points that need to be done, but overall, it is just basically a lift and shift. So it is quite simple, although obviously I know that there are a lot of people out there that have multiple transports. So that would be the bit that would take the longest, would be to filter through and make sure we're getting everything and then condensing it down easily so it's easily moved across.
All right, thank you.
Oh, I think I've got one here actually, Attilia, if I may.
Yeah.
This is from Helen. This is quite an interesting one, especially in relation to the video that I mentioned earlier with Decathlon. Is it possible to link time and attendance systems? And I'm guessing this is, third-party time and attendance systems to EC Payroll. Do you want to pick that one up, Michelle?
Yeah, okay? That's fine. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely can be. Yeah, we can link existing or new TNA systems. So, for example, Workforce or Kronos. Yeah. We can integrate attendance, absence, overtime, and allowances to ECP database for accurate payroll processing.
Yeah, and on that note as well, there's some new functionality come out from SAP in the last couple of years or so, which a lot of customers like time tracking. It's more of a time management, not just absence management. And that's always worth a look as well. If you were looking at using some sort of biometric system, but using the SAP functionality that SAP provides these days, that could also be worth looking at as well, I think.
I have one more question from Nick. How does ECP work with the SAP Finance module? I'm going to hand that over to you as well, Michelle.
Thank you.
The expert.
Finance is not my strong point.
I told you we're doing heavy lifting, Michelle.
But at a high level, financial structure is mastered in ECC, so the S4 system, for example. There's an outbound integration to EC and ECP, so it goes to both areas to transfer the financial structure and ensure all the systems coincide and align. So ECP contains the mapping of wage types to GL and employees to cost centres. And once the posting files are created in ECP, they are integrated back into the finance for posting to the GL.
GL?
General Ledger.
Sorry, yeah. Apologies.
Payroll people know this.
Yeah, I know, I don't. SAP is the only 3-letter or 2-letter acronym we allow. Yeah, sorry. I've got one. It's from John. So I hope this isn't John Clifford, because hopefully he's on holiday. But this is from John saying, will moving to EC Payroll fix all of our manual workarounds and legacy issues? Ooh, that's a big question.
Oh,
go for it.
Unfortunately, no. So it aims to simplify the payroll process, but it will not get rid of any long-standing workarounds. So when you begin the journey to moving across to ECP at the same time, it's kind of a good idea to work to resolve any long-standing process issues and kind of use the upgrade as an excuse to revamp the current processes and ways of working. So yeah, it doesn't, I'm afraid.
All right, I have one last question from Lisa. Will we need to reconfigure Employee Central to work with ECP?
So I did touch on this earlier a little bit. So if you're already integrating EC with Payroll, you don't need to redesign or reconfigure Employee Central. We can work with the existing design to ensure it's all payroll continuities. There's no hiccups or anything in the system. There'll be extra elements to activate in EC, such as mashup links and the PCC, and a couple of bits for point-to-point integration. But as you've just seen, the core of it, the HR modules, remains the same, so it won't cause any issues. There's little bits of configuration. It's not a complete redo of the system.
I have to, if I may, Attilia, I know that was the final question that we had through, but I just want to acknowledge one question which came through the Q&A chat from Ibrahim. It's a short question with a big answer. So Ibrahim's question was, if you haven't seen the Q&A, was how can I configure Payroll Control Center, PCC, for Saudi Arabia localization from scratch? So it did make me laugh, I have to be honest, which isn't a bad thing. I nearly spat out my coffee as well, because I think the thing about this is that the Payroll Control Center really is the conduit between EC Payroll and EC, and it's a very important part, right? It's the kind of that really nice looking user interface that Michelle showed is the Payroll Control Center part, and Michelle will keep me honest in what I'm saying here, right? But what you're saying there is from scratch, very, very hard. What I said to Ibrahim is, if you want to kind of engage us on a piece of consulting work, because I think that's what it would take in order to really provide a comprehensive answer to that, because that's the really key part that SAP's put a lot of work into and a lot of effort into in order to make payroll from a front-end user perspective interfacing with EC what it is today. That's the real difference for us, is that front end. And it's a really, really key component. We've got some real experts in the company. One of my colleagues, Mohan, being one who particularly comes to mind, who's really good with these. They call them, as Michelle just called it, a mashup screen, and he's a real expert in that area. And it's a really important part. So Ibrahim, I just wanted to acknowledge your question, and I answered in the similar vein. But yeah, if anybody wants to go further and look into this further, we have the knowledge, the expertise, whether it be EC Payroll, EC, or Payroll Control Center, to help you evaluate first of all, and then make a decision around what you're going to do next with your payroll solution. This could be one of several solutions, or it could be the solution for you because you're already an SAP organization. You're thinking, well, we really need to move away from on-prem payroll, or we need to move away from some other payroll system to SAP. How are we going to do that? And it's, as I said, for me, one of the key things about what Michelle's described, and also with my colleague Alex and other payroll experts we have scattered across Gaudi, it's very country specific, as you can imagine, is that they're process experts as well. So when the payroll people are sitting there sort of, we've got these days we have package solutions for this stuff as well, by country, by the way. There's some really strong package solutions for the UK, Denmark. We're working on other countries. Germany, I think, has one as well. So we're really putting a lot of effort into coming to your project with pre-configured solutions. So there's a lot of standard stuff, right? For us in the UK with, real-time information with HMRC, things like that. We've pre-configured a lot of that stuff. So you're not having to spend days and days evaluating and deciding. It's a lot of it's done there already, which is cutting down the time to deploy and the cost. So Decathlon, from start to finish, deployed UK payroll for 1,500 people in less than 8 months. Now, if you compare that to the SAP on-premise days, we would have spent 24 months there. So, with the package solutions we bring as an organization, the time to get a return on investment and value is much, much shorter, and the return on investment is not significant. And if you listen to the video by Nick Francis, he talks about the return on investment that they got in a very short space of time by deploying SuccessFactors and EC Payroll. So definitely worth looking at. But again, I can only thank you, Michelle. Really good. I love coming to these sessions because it's a real refresher for me too, to be honest. I think when you're out there working with customers, looking at solutions for them, and in my case, selling and marketing this stuff, it's really important for me to be refreshed by the experts as to the power of this stuff that we implement on behalf of SAP. Really important. And actually, as you know, we resell this as well as a reseller within the SAP environment. So thank you for that. I will now be quiet, Attilia, and I'm going to pass it back to you to close the session down, please. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Andy, and thank you, Michelle and Alex as well for joining. Thank you to all of you participants for taking the time to join this morning's session. Just before we end, I just want to make a remark. We have an exclusive webinar coming up that will be in Danish for our Employee Central Payroll solution for Denmark, if anybody is interested in that. We will also have our PXM Soft solution document management that will also have a webinar. Both of these will take place in November, and I will make sure to send out if anyone is interested in these as well. Other than that, thank you very much for joining, and have a great day. Take care.